Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. Stranded in mid-air. 200 people are stuck for 2 hours on Brighton's 450-foot observation tower. How did it happen?
Rebuilding from the ashes, the stately home in Surrey destroyed by fire, ready to welcome visitors once more.
It's not just the motorcars driving at Goodwood. Find out who else is receiving the revival treatment this year.
And anyone for tea and cake? Or how about a go on the world's biggest bouncy castle? We're at Bestival on the Isle of Wight. Good evening. It's the world's tallest moving observation tower, but last night Brighton's newest attraction broke down in mid-air with visitors inside.
Well, the I360 sends passengers 450 feet into the sky, but around 200 people, including 2 pregnant women, were stuck inside the pod for 2 hours.
Those in charge of the tower say it was a slight technical hitch, but that's not how those on board are describing it today. Here's Andy Dickinson.
So here we are, 1 hour, 40 minutes in, living the dream.
Almost 200 people left stranded in midair for more than 2 hours as Brighton's I360, the world's tallest moving observation tower, opened just last month, broke down. A slight technical hitch, operators say, causing their science fiction pod to halt 30 feet from the floor.
We'd literally just started, we never got anywhere near the top. Now we're sort of looking at the top, wondering how we would ever get up there, and in the end we were quite glad that we weren't at the top when it happened.
The attraction was carrying a private party, including 2 pregnant women, boarding at 5 p.m. for a 30-minute trip, ironically to celebrate the tower's opening. But they were stuck on board, gone 7, the fire service at one point arriving and then leaving, unable to help.
At one point we were, the slightly concerning message, we were all told there were too many people on the south side, so everyone had to move to the north side of the pod. Sadly, one of my guests, I didn't realise quite how scared of heights he was, and people kept telling him it was being fine, and the more people told him it was going to be fine, the more he panicked. The other concern was, and I think it's a good lesson for the I360 really, there was a real lack of information. Probably about 20 minutes before we were released, they opened up a secret hatch. Everyone got really excited because we thought we were going to sort of abseil down, or there's going to be one of those airplane style chutes that we could shoot down onto the ground on, but sadly no, it was a portable toilet, and I think the term portable toilet is probably over-egging it. It was a bucket with a seat.
No one from the I360 was available to speak to us today, though the attraction is now running. In a statement they told us our highly qualified engineering team were able to bring the pod back down at 7:15 and all passengers disembarked. We would like to offer our heartfelt apologies to all the customers affected and thank them for their patience. How the fault actually occurred, however, remains unclear.
Well, Andy Dickinson is next to the I360 now. Andy, we still don't know exactly why this happened, do we?
No, we've been told we should find out the exact nature of this breakdown next week, but although the I360 has already served more than 100,000 passengers, it has had some teething problems. The first flight we took before its opening in August, there was an hour delay before we got on, then the doors wouldn't open. We also saw an engineer adjust something at the top of the pod. Now, the I360's between flights at the moment, but we have to point out that no one was injured in last night's incident. Everyone reached the ground safely, and for those on board, quite a drama, but something to talk about down the pub this Friday night.
High drama indeed. Andy, thanks very much.
In other news, Dorset police have released a photo of the man they think is travelling with a missing pregnant woman. Katie Miles hasn't been seen for 10 days after missing an appointment at Poole Hospital. Doctors say she needs medical attention. Police say she may have travelled to Spain with the father of her child, Robert Brown. They're thought to be travelling in a black Range Rover.
A man's admitted attacking a teenager with a hammer in Portsmouth. James Hemming, who's 29, pleaded guilty to attempted murder today. A 17-year-old girl was left with life-changing injuries. The attack happened in Shearer Road in April. He'll be sentenced in December.
This Sunday will be the 15th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks in New York, and a national memorial to Britons killed in terrorist attacks overseas will be unveiled next summer.
Yes, it'll remember several people from here in the south. Melanie De Vere from Portsmouth, Richard Dawson, who lived in Southampton, and Robert Eaton from Ditchling in Sussex, all died during the World Trade Centre attacks in 2001.
It will also commemorate Daniel Braden from Brighton, who died in the Bali bombing in 2002, and David Thompson from Tadley, who was killed in the Tunisia beach massacre just last year.
Well, the memorial's being backed by the Bournemouth East MP Tobias Elwood, who lost his brother in that Bali bombing. Matt Price reports.
An idyllic beachfront setting turned terrorist target. The images of a bomb blast in Egypt 11 years ago may be grainy, but for the relatives of those who died, they are still so clear.
Some form of stone, marble.
Trevor Lakin's son Jeremy was one of 11 British victims killed in those attacks. He's among those who called for a national memorial to remember victims of atrocities abroad. Trevor, this is the proposed site for the memorial. What are your first thoughts? What do you think?
Very peaceful, calming, and you feel as though you can reflect. You've always got your own memories anyway.
Dreadful scenes overseas are sadly not uncommon. Dozens of Britons lost their lives in attacks in Bali in 2002, among them the brother of Bournemouth MP and Foreign Office Minister Tobias Elwood.
People have to live with this day in and day out, on missing birthdays, missing Christmases with their loved ones. And so we feel this is appropriate. And at the Arboretum as well, which has become a national icon, if you like, of reverence, of solemn respect.
And aside from this new tribute, the government's also consulting on whether a separate memorial should be created for the victims of attacks in Tunisia. Events in Sousse last year saw the biggest loss of British life due to terrorism since the London bombings. People like Trevor cannot and will not ever forget. But the new memorial, which will sit alongside hundreds of others in the grounds here, will provide relatives with a place to visit and remember their loved ones who travelled abroad but never came home.
At Price there, you're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up,
Ruby's living the high life, her tree mender's treehouse inspired by a fairy tale. Could you do any better?
and for more on all of our stories, you can head to our website itv.com/Meridian. You can call us or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter.
Some breaking news now, and a mother from Hampshire has been jailed for 5 years in Iran. Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe from Fleet was arrested in April on suspicion of trying to overthrow the regime. She'd gone to Iran to visit her parents with her 2-year-old daughter, who is now staying with grandparents.
Now, less than a year and a half since Clarendon Park House in Surrey was destroyed by fire, this weekend visitors will be able to step inside for the first time.
Well, the 18th century stately home was engulfed in flames in April 2015 when a fire spread from the basement to the roof. Antique furniture and textiles were reduced to ashes.
Well, the building will be shrouded in scaffolding for several years. Our reporter Katie Oakes has been to see how the painstaking restoration is progressing.
Concealed behind coverings at Clarendon Park, they're working to restore as much as they can from the little that was left. In April last year, a fire started in the basement, taking just a few minutes to burn through hundreds of years of history. 95% was destroyed.
The building was destroyed in some areas, floor to ceiling. In other areas, much more optimistic, much more survives.
Now visitors can see the extent of the damage and the start of the restoration.
We've extended it as far as we can, just to the edge of the Marble Hall. And the Marble Hall was the main entrance of the house. It was the set piece.
Salvaged statues a sign of the past grandeur of this entrance hall, once a wedding venue. And the floor stayed intact under 15 feet of rubble.
So when the archaeologists started to, go through that material, to suddenly just see even a square foot to begin with of this white marble was just, it was an extraordinary feeling.
The huge shell now gives a unique perspective.
You can see as you look up, just really the monumental scale of the building. As your eyes rise up, This is the level of the ceiling where the strapping is, and then what we can see here is the fireplace of the room above.
The restoration will cost tens of millions of pounds. The former owners who handed Clandon Park to the National Trust in the 50s say it isn't worth it.
Clandon is dead. Sadly, 90% of the contents have gone, 90% of the buildings have gone, so this would not be a preservation project, it would be a building scheme.
Do you think it's the best way to spend the Trust's money?
We absolutely do. The restoration in the large part can be covered by insurance, which is specifically for doing that. The ground floor rooms were spectacular.
Clandon Park will never be the same as it was before the flames took hold, but the National Trust is determined to build a new future from the fire. Katie Oakes, ITV News.
Well, from a magnificent stately home to a magnificent stately sports presenter. Andrew, I know you won't take offence at this, but in that jacket you do look like a bit like a cinema usher.
Thank you very much, dapper Dinage. OK, more on the attire a little bit later. But first, Premier League football is back this weekend, and Bournemouth fans can look forward to watching their new star signing. Arsenal midfielder Jack Wilshere has joined on a season-long loan. He's expected to make his debut at home to West Brom tomorrow, and boss Eddie Howe has praised the England star for choosing Bournemouth.
The games are going to be tough, and he's obviously going to be aware of that coming here. But I think he obviously made his decision around what he knew, and yeah, I think he deserves credit for his decision. I think it's a brave decision for his career, but hopefully a good one, and hopefully when he looks back in a year's time, he thinks that was a major turning point in his career for the better.
Southampton manager Claude Puel will be up against his old Monaco boss. Arsene Wenger has been in charge of Arsenal for 20 years, and Puel would love to have a similar long stay at Southampton.
All my work is not just for 1 year, but to develop, to improve, and the player, individual player, and the collective also to develop, aussi to improve with the young players for the future of Southampton. This for me it's important.
In the Championship, Reading kick things off at home to Ipswich tonight at 8 o'clock. Brighton welcome Brentford tomorrow. In League One, Oxford United take on rivals Swindon, and in League Two, Portsmouth will hope to continue their great form against Wycombe, while Crawley travel to Stevenage. Now, 2 years ago, Francis Benali had to endure his fair share of ice baths as he ran from Newcastle United to Southampton Football Club via every Premier League stadium. And now he's going even further. The former Saints defender will be running and cycling between every Premier League and Championship club over a 2-week period to raise money for Cancer Research UK.
The first challenge I did 2 years ago, it was going into the unknown, so there was an element of not knowing what pain and discomfort there was going to be and the challenges we faced. So I'm not relishing or looking forward to that one bit, to be honest, and the ice baths again, and trying to eat and keep the nutrition side up. But ultimately, if we can get back to St Mary's on the 16th of October, then that will be a successful challenge. So that's a day I'm looking forward to.
In the Paralympics in Rio, Simon Munn from Brighton got off to a winning start in the wheelchair basketball. Team GB beating Algeria by 93 points to 31. While tomorrow, former Royal Marines Commando Joe Townsend from Sussex competes in the triathlon. The America's Cup hits Toulon this weekend for the penultimate round of the World Series. It's meant Weymouth's Olympic gold medalist Giles Scott has had to go from Rio out to France, where he met up with our own Sally Simmons.
Keeping the multi-million-pound yachts in Toulon on the Côte d'Azur spick and span is all about appearances. For America's Cup yachts, a smooth surface means more speed. And while Giles Scott might want to savour the moment he won gold in Rio, the Olympic champion was put straight back to work.
This morning I was, straight on the polishing. Spent the morning polishing the boat, which is, a good thing to bring me back down to normality.
If you told me to get back to work, even if I was Giles, I would. Giles and I have got a good relationship over many years racing against one another. We managed to survive that, and now I think we're that much stronger being a team out in the water.
Well, on practice day, as ever, the wind is perfect, but will it hold for this weekend's racing so we can see these foiling catamarans fly?
It's going to be light this weekend. I'd be surprised if we saw anything above 10 knots, maybe 12 knots if we're lucky. Foiling is amazing and going fast is amazing, but the sort of tactical nuances of when it's light and the boat handling that we have to pull off in that really light airs is really, really tricky.
Land Rover BAR know they hold only a 1-point lead over second place Oracle. There's no time for Giles Scott to relax with 6 races over the weekend. Sally Simmons, ITV News, Toulon.
Now get your cravats out because the Goodwood Revival is on. Everyone dresses up in vintage clothing as they go back in time to watch the historic cars and bikes. But as I found out, the Revival isn't confined to just the track. Revival is all the rage. Right across Goodwood, the Hickory Golf Society makes sure there's none of your modern-day putters here, instead providing brassies, spoons, mashies and niblicks. What do you miss about not having the modern-day kit?
Well, when you don't hit it out the middle of the club, your hands sort of, it feels, it stings your hands, and yeah, it's the technology really. But they're great fun. I mean, this is how golf was designed to be played. It's its purest format, and it's interesting to see how it's making a resurgence at the moment, actually.
But of course, as ever over the next couple of days, the car's the star. The festival celebrates the halcyon days of motor racing, alongside the glamour of the 1940s, 50s and 60s. So what does the Goodwood Revival mean to you?
This brings back a bit of British heritage, British culture. This is about motorsport and going back over our historic car building of the years. There's so much to see, so much to do. I've got a car which is 64 years old, same as myself. So this is very sentimental to come here.
And this weekend, the racing and the glamour will be as spectacular as ever. So a jolly good weekend is in store for all. I'm off now to sell the popcorn.
And may I say, Andrew, it's a lovely jacket. As my old gran used to say, why pay more?
Give us a twirl, Andy, quickly. Come on, I want to see. Oh, beautiful, thank you. Now, it's the last festival of the summer and the most colourful. 40,000 people have arrived on the Isle of Wight for Bestival.
Yes, some of them chose a slightly unusual way to arrive, swimming the 1.3 miles across the Solent, as Mary Stanley will tell us.
It's been voted the UK's best festival, and for the 40,000 who gather at Bestival on the Isle of Wight, it's a chance to really go to town.
I think it makes people feel happy to see, you know, people making a lot of effort and, you know, just looking sparkly and different to everyday life.
And I chose to be dressed like Avatar because everybody's like their own avatar. So yeah, we should all like dress up and be ourselves.
It's got a good atmosphere and it's not too crowded, and yeah, it's good vibes.
Oh, it's just the people, the fun and the glitter.
Bestival boasts of having music from every decade and every genre to suit all tastes. Among the highlights, The Cure, Major Lazer, Bastille, Fatboy Slim and Craig David.
Bestival is known as the most colourful and possibly the most unusual festival. Take, for example, this, the largest bouncy castle.
There's also an inflatable church, hot tubs and a giant robot. But one attraction in demand is the WIT tent. 1,000 members from across the island have each baked a cake.
We've been here every year, we're very well looked after. We are one of the longest standing tents on the Bestival site, so yeah, we really enjoy it.
What makes Bestival so special?
I think, you know, the magic of getting onto this beautiful island, you know, getting on the ferry, getting to this site, you know, maybe leaving your other self at the door and kind of running around here and having a mad adventure.
Not everyone chooses the traditional ferry route to the festival. Awarded on stage, one group who've been swimming here for the last 10 years.
It's absolutely brilliant that people are still getting the enjoyment of getting to a festival. They still get to learn to swim open water, which in itself is completely exhilarating. And then on top of that, they raise loads of money for charity. How ruddy good is that?
Festivals are often known for wellies and mud, and many have come prepared. But no rain will stop the party atmosphere here. Mary Stanley, ITV News on the Isle of Wight.
Wonderful. Now, when you think of a garden den, it usually involves nothing more than an old blanket propped up by a few sticks and a lot of imagination. But with a bit of creativity and lots of hard work, anything is possible.
Yes, three friends built this ultimate two-storey treehouse, 85 foot high in Lower Hayford in Oxfordshire. However, safety fears meant it faced the chop. And then there was author Nick Weston, who built his near Haywards Heath and stayed there for 6 months while writing a book about his experiences.
And now the 6-year-old Ruby Jennings, whose treehouse has just been voted the best in Britain. Natalie Gray was invited around.
I'm off for high tea.
Hi Ruby! Welcome to my treehouse. You can come and have tea if you like.
Yes please, can I come up?
Yes you can.
Thank you. I'm coming. Whoa, this is exciting. And I see you've got cake.
Ruby Jennings is one lucky little girl. Her treehouse has just been voted the best in Britain in a national competition run by Centre Parks. She made it with her dad, and it was inspired by her favourite Enid Blyton stories about the magic faraway tree, elves, fairies and enchanted lands.
Clang, clatter, clash. The kettles and saucepans made an enormous noise.
You have the cutest treehouse. Why is it so special?
Because we both made it in 3 weeks and we love playing it a lot and we have spent lots of time in it.
And fairies live here too, I see.
Yeah.
Have you seen a fairy?
Yeah. There's 2 over there.
Really?
I can see them.
TV adventurer Steve Backshall was one of the judges.
We weren't looking for some grand palace in the treetops, but something that could be done by pretty much anyone, that would be affordable and that was mainly relying on creativity and ingenuity to create the masterpiece. And you couldn't look for anywhere more perfect than this extraordinary treehouse.
We're absolutely amazed, to be honest. We still can't believe it. It started off just as somewhere for my daughter to play, and it gradually grew, and we added more and more bits to it, and it's just phenomenal. I can't believe we've won.
It's great being up high, isn't it?
Yeah.
How tall are we?
Very.
We're bigger than your trampoline. We're taller than the greenhouse.
Yeah. Nearly taller than the house.
Nearly taller than the house.
And if Ruby ever were to get bored, she can always play in her Wendy house. But for now, she's enjoying the high living.
Bye, thank you for visiting.
What a magical place. Natalie Gray, ITV News.
Lucky girl. Well, someone else with plenty of imagination is 8-year-old William Brown and his mum and dad from North Oxfordshire.
Yes, they were also finalists in the competition. They spent 2 months working on the treehouse at their home in North Newington near Banbury. It includes a double-length slide and cargo net. Well done.
Well done. And Simon is with us now. Simon.
Catch cargo in a cargo net. Is that what it's for? Obviously, if you look in the trees, you might see tree houses. You might also see interesting shapes. It's that time of the year when the trees are doing funny things. So have a look at the trees that look like other things that have come in.
Yes.
Richard Tyrrell sent this in from Hollyport FC's football ground in Maidenhead, clearly distracted from the high-quality football when he saw the tree in the background that looked like
a love heart.
A butterfly, complete with antennae formed from the bare branches. You also have to look quite carefully to the right, where Graham Piers at Gray's Court near Henley-on-Thames found...
Nothing.
It's a ship sailing out.
Of
Look,
course it is.
Easy one here from Douglas Rogers in Clanfield.
Yes, Loch Ness Monster.
It's actually a camel, he thought. Not exactly a tree, but Ken Rayner, walking along the Kennerton Avon Canal in Hungerford, saw a giant bird sitting on the Loch Arm. Actually, it's a sluice winder. And finally, Lee and Colin Thomas Gray. Look at the one on the far left. What do you think?
The Tin Man.
From The Wizard of Oz. That's what they thought too. You can have a closer look on my blog on the website, by the way.
Absolutely brilliant. As always, and here he is again, Simon Parkin.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, now it's always a bit of a worry when on a Friday night I bring out one of those reminders that rain can look pretty. It does mean that we will see some through the weekend, but it won't be a complete write-off. Certainly tonight, a lot of dry weather, fair bit of cloud too. Fairly mild temperatures, 17, 18 degrees, but a fresh enough breeze to stop it being too muggy. And through the early hours, we'll start to see some outbreaks of rain arrive from the west. Now, they're going to slowly work their way eastwards through tomorrow. A lot of the rain light and patchy, perhaps an odd heavier burst in there as well. And as it clears away eastwards, things will turn drier from the west as the afternoon goes on. But with all of that cloud cover and a bit of a breeze around as well, temperatures a bit disappointing tomorrow, peaking at around 19 or 20 degrees and certainly still quite blowy along the coast. As for your high tide times, well, you can see in Bournemouth, 1:45 in the morning, then 1:15 in the afternoon. And then here's the good bit of the forecast. Sunday is looking like a very nice day. Might be a bit nippy first thing, but plenty of dry and fine weather. Into next week, staying settled and getting very warm by Tuesday as well.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
After the break, the ITV Evening News with Alistair Stewart and Charlene White.
Stacey Paul's got Alec News, but for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks very much indeed for watching. Have a happy and peaceful weekend.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.